I don't know what happened, but hopefully that will, well, we are okay now. So, something about Score. If you remember last meetup, there was a nice presentation about Sitecore SXA, and there was a question, what about Score? Is it like similar or it's different? So I just wanted to explain you a bit about Score. I will be using this presentation just for a couple of minutes because I borrowed it from the sales department. And I just needed something on the background while I'm explaining and talking. So Score, well, basically Score is the development framework for Sitecore. But actually it's, it's a bit boring abbreviation, well, not abbreviation, but description, because Score is actually much more than that. Well, if we're talking about Score, what is Score? Actually, it's a quite big, extension for a Sitecore, especially about the pages. Score was built to extend the page editor or experience editor and bring it to a new level. Well, actually, that's a pretty basic stuff about Sitecore. And Score, wanted to decide a couple of things, especially for enterprise clients, because, well, normally you can use Score to build just a simple website, to design and web pages, just a couple of them, but actually it's not, the real thing. The real thing is that when you're trying to use it, you normally use it like a big client, and you have a lot of probably similar websites. And so Score helps here to reduce delivery costs and everything. Yeah, it's about sales, so you can tell. And there are two main audiences for Score users. Well, the main one is content editors. So you will see it later, because like I said, it's just a few pages here. But you will see later that using Score is much better for content editors, because the main idea of Score is to make everything page-driven. So for content editors, you do not even need to go to the content tree at all while you're building your website. So you can do, the idea is to make everything through the page editor or experience editor, and not to have a dependency back to the development team, because every communication, well, it's like I said, it's not about lower costs and about speeding up the development itself. So as soon as the development is finished and the content editors get their solution, they can start building right away, and they don't need to go to the development team and tell, oh, come on, just add me a little checkbox there, or could you please add another image to this layout? No, nothing like this. And another thing, yeah, of course, it's about the development. So Sitecore plus Score is actually not a big difference for developer, because if you, for example, know how to build a simple rendering using Sitecore, then you can work with Score. No problems here. Well, Score itself, doesn't really work with the third-party components. But if you can use, if you want to use them, you can use them. No problem here. And, well, Score basically, by default, it provides, I think more than 100 visual components by default. But actually, it's not only about visual components at all. On the background, again, for using this, to follow this approach to do everything for page editors, for content editors, sorry. That would require a lot of backend work, like about data sources, about visual components, about snippets, which are actually renderings. I will show them later. And this means that, without that, there are also some components which are not visual. Well, one example is XML sitemap. which is actually a bit like extension for Score and Sitecore. You can also use that, and all of that, well, makes it, okay, well, pretty good for developers and for content editors. Well, just a few words about how actually, not the development, but a project starts, and how people from BrainJox, well, the BrainJox is actually a company who develops the Score. How BrainJox and Score work with different companies. Well, normally, like I said, it's an enterprise company. And some examples. So these are like clients. You probably don't know all of them. Well, Heinz is pretty famous. P&G stands for Procter & Gamble. Well, Honeywell is also a big client, but I don't think that's pretty familiar here in Belarus. So actually, what's happening where a client like a P&G comes to BrainJox and they say that we want to use your Score with Sitecore. Well, basically it means that Score, BrainJox can also provide a development team, architecture review and everything, but they can also do a training for P&G developers or like with third-party company, and to learn them how to work with Score, and then can do it on their own. And the idea here is to build some, a generic solution, because even big companies, they still have, they always have some not problems, but features like an external authentication system, maybe like a connection to a review service or anything. So it's always about customization as well. So as long as the base Score functionality is pretty flexible, but anyway, there is also some kind of customization for, I think, for pretty every client. And that's probably it. Well, and one more point that Score is pretty, like I said, it's pretty really documented. So for developers, it's okay to work with it. So I think that's all about boring stuff. Let's look at it. And yeah, comparing to Rob and Anton, I will probably have a lot of pictures and front end. So first of all, I would like to show you this. Yeah, this website. It's built based on Score version 0.5. Version 0.5 was released 2 months ago, and so this is like a demo site. But anyway, it was built using Score, like a basic Score, no customizations at all. So what I can see here, well, first of all, maybe some header and with some menus, flyout menus. And see they are different, like this one and this one. I have a carousel, and each carousel has a different design, like 3 columns and everything, like images. Another carousel, one more type of design, some other sections, and the header. So it's pretty basic. If I take a look at the, for example, shop. There is, yeah, okay. So there's like a search page with some products, and if there's some filters with pictures and everything. If I go for a search, the search is here, and if I type like Italy, I don't know, white wine. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I have like a match. Well, by default, all Score components and everything, it goes like with a responsive design like this. So you don't need to do anything about it. So it's out of the box. So yeah, if there is another page like this one, so you see the site just uses the different components. They're not really complicated, but there are a lot of them, and they are all different. So let's switch to the content editor, and we'll see what actually Score is on the background. Well, not the background actually, but in the experience editor. Okay. Well, actually, that's default. Well, some kind of a default content tree used by Score and on Score projects. But actually, it's up to you. If you don't like this tree, you can change it. If you're because everything based on the rules. And if, for example, you don't like the way how BrainJogs, how Score is working with as a solution, with the development teams, you can use Habitat, for example, if you want to, no problems. You can change the structure of the tree, like I said, no problems at all. And the Score has its own vision of an opinion about this, but nobody will force you to. You are not forced to work with this tree only. So this is probably not so nice. But if I switch to Experience Editor, so the idea here is to, if for example you have a lot of possibilities for a lot of things to provide for developers, for content editors, then probably you should not follow the approach when you're building a lot of sub-layouts or a lot of renderings with the fixed positions and everything. You should start with the atomic design. What this means, that if you build something, you don't need to think about a position or about what content is going to be there. Do I need to think about it? No, you do not. You don't need to think about it. So, for example, here is the home page. Well, first of all, it's a header, and you see a header. Actually, it's not there. I mean, it's just a link there, because header is like a separate part. It's called snippet. That will be later, but it's not edited here on this page, because this home page contains only that is relevant for a home page. So these are structure which represent the whole thing. So if I scroll down, this is actually my carousel. It's slide number 1, 2, and 3, and some other stuff below. So the thing is about this, if I want, for example, to add another thing, so what I do, no, probably that's a different thing. No. Yeah. Oh, come on. Oh, yeah, here we go. So there is a component called carousel pane, and well, you can see only one here because, I've obviously that is handled using the placeholder settings. And what if the content editor wants to create a new page? Well, not a new page, a new slide for example, for this homepage. So what I did, I added new rendering called carousel pane, and then I want to create a new content. Here we have like 4 different folders, different color. I will talk about them a bit later. And we have like few options. We can choose already created data source, or we can create a new one. I will create a new one and call it carousel pane 6. And what it does, it adds a new rendering too. Well, obviously that's a pretty familiar thing. That will be a new rendering. and it will be on the page. And for example, well, it's blank by default, of course. I can add an image here. I can select a color for a background or a font color, like this. Or I can just start creating something similar here on the background. So what I do here, I add another component. Here I have much more flexibility. For example, I will go with something like this, for example, wide left and the right side. So Score creates these two types of components. Well, another component. And for example, if I want to, to work with another component, I want to change this. For example, I want to move this bottle to this location. I can do that. And well, that actually Sitecore doesn't support out of the box. What if I want to, to work with this component? I don't want it to, it's because the bottle is pretty big, well, comparing to the whole thing. And what if I want to put it to remove it for small devices, for tablets, for example? I can do it here. Everything, like I said, everything is responsive, and you don't need to think about it. I can also, for example, put it here. Yeah, another thing. What if I decided to change? Oh, sorry, that will be a different thing. What if I decided to swap columns or create a new thing about this? So I can do this. And Score will make this thing, well, actually it's equal now, but you don't see it. Yeah, I will change it like this. Yeah, again, this. I will be a different example for this. So so if we're talking about atomic design, and all components are here by like a small blocks of components, and I can build a whole big thing about this. What if we just move a bit further with this? What if we think about the whole thing? And what if I want to? Yeah, I will go to the site header as a different component. No, I will leave. I don't want to save it. So here, this is our header. And as you see, it's pretty similar thing. Well, it's just another rendering with a whole bunch of components, and but it's edited like a different location. Why? Score supports modifying standard values. Of course, you can, while you're creating your page, you can go to the standard values and put a lot of things to the standard values. So it means that your headers and footers will be then delivered to all the items based on the template. But it's a different thing here. If you, for example, save it, and first thing is that you would have this lot of stuff on the top. And for example, if your page is like you have just a small piece of text and nothing more, just a small image, like a new, really short intro text, you would have like a huge header, then your small component, and then a huge footer again, which is not really user friendly. So, and one more thing about this, if you have a lot of stuff and you change it for header, that will be like disconnected from your standard values, obviously. And it means that you have your local version of it, which is not good at all. Because if you want to change something for the whole thing, you need to go and find your disconnected layout renderings. So this header is actually, we can do everything with it, like with a normal component. For example, I want to add another. No, I want to add. Oh my God. Let it be. No, this should be that one. Yeah, I still have a couple different menus here, and what I want to, for example, I can create a new flyout menu, or I can do a drop-down list spider, or like different components. Some of them are, like I can create them their elements manually, or I can use something more advanced like spiders or menus with something that it's yeah. For example, if I create this one, I'm going to show you different options that we have. And here, I basically have another thing here, and again, some inner structure to split the area by 2. And then I want to, for example, add, not content, like navigation maybe. Yeah, I wanted to create a section menu spider, like an example. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and as a root, that will be something like score, I don't know, discover. What it means that I added a new mega menu item. So that will be a new item on the top of the page, and that will bring me all 3 levels of items started from the discover item. Well, that's basically, it's really what Score is about. Because if you don't want to, your content editors go to content developer, go to the development team and ask them to provide, different things for different layouts. You can always do it like here, because for one thing you need to some static menu. For another, you want to use like a spider or crawler, and you want to show like 1 level or 3 levels. And everything can be done here. So if you are like, for example, you are not happy with the location, you can change it. Like this. Well, and basically that's it. You can also, for example, if you're not happy, like I said, there will be an example about this. If you're not happy with how it looks like, then you can split it into 3. Not sure. Yeah. So now we have the 3 columns here. So everything is about flexibility here. And if we're talking about snippets again, the whole thing here is a snippet, and it is stored in a different location. Here, I'm not sure if you can see it. So it's like well, it's something somewhere here. Trust me. Okay, yeah, navigation. No, not navigation. Okay, yeah. So it's another piece of thing. Why it's like this? Because actually, it's a bit of problem for Sitecore. If you open you have a huge page with a lot of components, a lot of renderings with different data sources, and it's pretty problem for Sitecore to handle all of this properly. So that's why, well, this approach with the snippets is here. But it can be extended even more. What if, for example, I want to, well, I don't want to use snippets, but for some reason, for example, I want to, let me see. Well, let's start with Argentina. Okay, we have a page here, and well, it's a page is a page, and nothing really fancy about it. But for some reason, I want to take this part, and I want to reuse it because, well, I want something like a copy. So this is like an advanced copy-paste thing. If I want to cut this part, I'm going to click this little scissors, and that will ask me to create a snippet. And I'm going to call it Sitecore. Okay. And what it means? It means that it creates a new snippet under the all snippets. Here it is. And yeah, also has a preview here, you know, some text, some intro text, some right stuff from the right. And for example, I wanted to use this, well, I can show it here. I deleted it, and then I want to add another snippet, and that will be content, and run a snippet macro. And I will pick the same snippet again. Boom. So basically, it's a way to reuse the content between you know, different pages. For example, for some page, well, so you can think about it like a pattern of content. So I cut this part, and I can paste it anywhere, and I can change the text and everything, blah blah blah, and save. And that will be a copy of this particular page, not the, you know, the snippet itself. That will be not shared. That's the difference. So this is a really flexible way for content editors to think about, well, another thing maybe just to keep in mind that if they want to reuse something, they don't need to go to the different page with a different template, think about standard values or anything. They can just cut the piece of a page, then paste it, then modify it and save, and that will do everything. So it's a pretty nice way for content editors, because it saves a lot of time and money, of course. And there's one more thing about this. Not sure if it works. For some reason it doesn't. Yeah, so just want to mention that Square provides a couple of components that are out of the box for geolocation for YouTube videos and everything. So it's if you, yeah, so normally you have a lot of cases when you need to use geolocation. So yeah, it's also for content editors to simplify their life. And if there are, you know, some problems with another component, you need to use something different, yes, then you should go with the customization, of course. And I want to switch to another thing about this and to tell you about, yeah, probably I told you about standard values already. Just wanted to make sure that content page. Okay, standard values here. Just an example. So you see the standard values for a content page. It's pretty small. So just a breadcrumb here, some text and everything. So it's everything that will be, you know, creating these standard values, that will take this part. And if you change it there, all your like referenced items, they will be updated, which is like, you know, pretty the way Sitecore works. And another thing about this, it's branches. So they're pretty different comparing to the standard values, because Here we can create like a whole sections of a website. For example, I don't know, this is about content page, this is about details page branch, but we can create just the whole thing, the whole website. And actually this is a case. And I promised to tell you about these folders. These are, you know, data sources for components that are here. So if I change, I want to change something here. For example, for this branch, I want to, I don't know, I want to do some things about it, because let's do it with product details page. I want to change it a bit. I want to move components maybe. I want to add something like an image. And what I do, I don't know, I can cut it from here, move it here, to move title to another location like here. And I'm okay with it. I can save. And if I save, all my data sources, all components are stored here for a green folder. And if I create then something using this branch template, that will also have you know, already resolved things like images and another data source components for this particular page. So green folder means something for this item. So currently that's for home item. There are other levels of this. I, for example, can use a red folder. Here red folder is not the right order. So content is a blue folder, and this is something that available for all pages under this tenant. So currently this is USA. And if I want to use something even more shared, like for the whole thing, for like a group of sites of tenant, then I can use a red folder. And if you probably saw it, if I want to add something here, like image button, I can do this for a red folder or for a green folder. Well, everything depends on the rules, because currently this is resolved only for these folders, but you can share it all across the website. That also saves you time, because you don't need to think about copying something. You can use the same like instance or copy of a data source. And you probably think about, what if all this flexibility about, but if I want to, for example, what if I want to put a lot of components on the page, and I want them to communicate. And for example, if I click one component, something gets changed for another component. And how it's possible without the development team? The thing is, Score has provided, since version 2.1, Score provides CCF, which stands for Component Communications Framework. And this is all about it. This is about communication between different components which are on the page. And like I said, content editors don't need to go to the development team and ask them, if I click this button, please do something with this component, like make it red, for example, I don't know. Using the CCF, which is, I probably saw a lot of things about it, but CCF is, I think it's more or less completed. So if I go to my search page, which is a good example. Well, it is a search page. Yeah, bad thing. Okay, my front end is now gone. Anyway, this is my search page, and well, if you remember, if I was typing something, that changed. Well, on the using the search box, that changed facets here. That changed also, well, the results, number of results, their availability. If there were no results for this group from $10 to $20, then it became like disabled and everything. So everything was, if I And one thing, if I select something here, and I also have a facet here, well, with a little red cross that I can delete it. So it's all about, communication. This part communicates with this one, and this part communicates with this part, which is probably, well, you can always add more components. You can, for example, move this part to another part, and they still should communicate with each other. So how it's done? If I go to here, yeah, so this is the refresh on messages. Okay, and that's probably it about it. So you have a little event here, update search results, and it says that if something happening, then to some kind of event, which is update search results. And basically, this is also valid for these components as well. They also have the same message. And since they all have the same message, that's only for input change messages. If they have the same message, it means that if I do something which triggers a single event, then all components on the page, they're refreshed in the same manner. So if, for example, I clicked a facet, that will change something for this component. And probably that's it. It's more than that. You can always think about analytics, which is Sitecore always thinks about analytics. If you want to enable some analytics event like clicking something, you can always attach using the same CCF framework. You can also attach something to this button. I think that's it about the front end and the experience editor. Just a few words about development itself. Development with the Sitecore or with the Score is pretty similar to everything. And if we, for example, take a look here, layouts, renderings, Score something, Bootstrap UI, for example, content, buttons, everything. It's like, for example, image button. It's a view. It's a model. And if you want to change it, that's probably all of us did it a lot of times. And as far as I'm not sure I can share my solution. Yeah, no, I can't. Because just a few things about it. Like I said, the solution has some predefined thing, like some environments which contains a lot of configuration for all possible environments, like int single, QA single, QA CM, and everything, which makes it easier for deployment. And they're using patches. Like I said, by default, it's not using anything like Glass Mapper, for example, but if you want to, no problems. So that's the idea of Score. If you want to work with Score, and you probably need to only learn how the thing is structured. Everything else is always about Sitecore, so it's the same thing. Just maybe a small example about like a real example. Few words. Procter & Gamble. There was a solution to build more than 100 websites for different products, like their Allspice, some other stuff. They offer a lot of products. And it took us for a few months to build a project that actually is a constructor for different websites. So basically, that was something like this. Just imagine that was a single website. And using the PowerShell scripts and some packages, you could deploy a new website here with almost every content just in maybe 2 minutes. And your content editors are ready to work with it. And like I said, there are more than 100 websites like this. And if you look at them, they're totally different. Like one have carousels, one don't have, other don't have. Some have like images and well, layouts are totally different, but on the background, on the back end, they're absolutely same. Like all the structure is similar. Well, that's the thing about flexibility, Score, and Sitecore working together. So yeah, did I? Okay, I'm done.
What is the price for Score?
Well, I expected that. It really depends. You can, for example, well, I will not tell you the exact amount of money, but you can always buy something like a trial version with a full support and everything for a few months, or you can extend it month by month. But yeah, it's not sure, but it's not cheap. Like I said, buying a Score for building just a single website with a couple of pages, that's stupid.